Extraordinary day and night in Australian politics. Malcolm Turnbull is set to become Australia's 29th Prime Minister, having taken the Liberal Party leadership from Tony Abbott. MPs and senators voted just a short time ago, 54 to 44 for Malcolm Turnbull. Our political editor Mark Riley joins us once again. Mark, why Malcolm Turnbull? How was he able to convince enough Liberals to jump on board?
Well, Mark, I think understandably his most persuasive pitch was that he could save their seats, that only he as leader could ensure that the government would be returned at the next election. He obviously promised what a lot of the party was thinking, that under Tony Abbott they were lurching towards inevitable defeat and that he could save them from that. He took direct aim at Tony Abbott's leadership style, particularly his communication style. Malcolm Turnbull saying that the party needs advocacy, not slogans, and a style of leadership that respects the people's intelligence, an end to policy on the run and of captain's call, and reconnecting with the middle ground of politics, Mark.
Mark, can Malcolm Turnbull unite the party? There are obviously very deep divisions there this evening. Can he unite the party and turn the party's fortunes around?
Yeah, he's certainly going to have to unite the party in very short-term order, Mark, and there are, you are right, very deep wounds have been inflicted in the last messy several months. Malcolm Turnbull now needs to reach out to that part of the party that has been agitating against him and to bring it together to put a united front to the people as soon as possible and set the government on a united course towards an election which I believe will be in the second half of next year, despite Rupert Murdoch, the media mogul, tonight tweeting that he believes that Malcolm Turnbull should go to an election before the end of this year. I don't think he's going to do that. I think that would be folly, and I think that he will wait now until the second half of next year, try and settle the horses, set the government on a steady course, re-engage with the electorate, set out his narrative and head towards that election the second half of next year, Mark.
Well, Mark, what can a Malcolm Turnbull government do? What must it do that a Tony Abbott team couldn't?
Look, a couple of things I think crucially. I think Malcolm Turnbull absolutely needs to re-engage with those people who were once Howard's battlers that Tony Abbott tried to bring on side as Tony's tradies, although they never warmed to him. Average Australians, to have them re-engage with politics, to be less about the combat of politics, about the collision of the daily personality differences, and set out a conversation with the people that paints in a horizon of the Australia he wants to establish for the people, that sets out a narrative that people can connect with, communicates clearly and precisely, and starts talking again about the values of average Australians. It sounds simple when we put it like that, Mark, but it's been beyond the capability of the past three Prime Ministers. Malcolm Turnbull now has that task in his hands.
OK, Mark, well, we're expecting to hear from Mr Turnbull very shortly, so we'll cross back to you in a few minutes' time. Thank you. Tonight he holds the keys to the highest office in Australia, but despite his millionaire status, Malcolm Turnbull knows what it's like to struggle. Chris Reason joins us now, and Chris, he was raised by his father, a single parent, and as a student he won his way into scholarships to some pretty prestigious schools, didn't he?
Yeah, Mark, Malcolm Turnbull has been many things in life. He was a lawyer who created legal precedent with the Spycatcher case, a businessman who made around $200 million with an internet startup, and of course a politician who lost a leadership vote to Tony Abbott once before, but obviously not tonight.
From humble beginnings to high flyer, Malcolm Turnbull began his career as a journalist, but his talent and ambition saw him move from writing headlines to making them, taking up a role as counsel to Kerry Packer, cementing his reputation as an upstart young lawyer, taking on the British government in the Spycatcher trial.
We're very happy about the judgment.
But it was his push for the Republic in 1999 which put Malcolm Turnbull in the national spotlight, taking aim at John Howard when Australia voted no.
He was the Prime Minister who broke this nation's heart.
In 2004, Turnbull made the move into political life, winning the blue ribbon seat of Wentworth and soon a spot on John Howard's front bench. As his party struggled in the aftermath of the 2007 election loss, he took charge, seizing the Liberal leadership from Brendan Nelson.
Well, it's a great honour and privilege, humbling
But within 12 months, things began to unravel. First with the Godwin Gretsch saga, duped by a lying public servant. Then with his support for the Rudd government's emissions trading scheme, he drifted further from his Conservative colleagues. Beaten by Tony Abbott in a 2009 party room showdown by a single vote.
There are some wounds that do need to be healed.
He debated leaving Parliament but was convinced to stay. And with the coalition win in 2013, he was appointed to Tony Abbott's ministry, tasked with rolling out the national broadband network. When leadership rumblings began in February of this year, Malcolm Turnbull was urged to challenge. He didn't, and Tony Abbott managed to stave off a spill, knowing the next attempt was only ever a matter of time. Chris Reason, 7 News.
Yes, it has been an extraordinary day. There'd been speculation for months and it re-emerged suddenly yesterday. MPs were returning to Canberra for the last sitting week before the crucial Canning by-election, and the time for a challenge was rapidly running out. Ministers had been unanimous all day in dismissing those rumours, all except one.
The picture of a Prime Ministership ended with stunning speed by an attack from within. Tony Abbott's 2 years and 7 days at the top finally began unravelling in a parliamentary courtyard at 4:04 p.m.
Okay.
The long undeclared threat to the Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, declares war.
A little while ago, I met with the Prime Minister.
OK, we'll leave Tim Lester's story there. Malcolm Turnbull is about to speak with a media gathering. We'll go there now.
Julie and I are sorry to keep you up so late. This has been a very important day in the life of the nation, the government, and of course of our party. As you know, the party room a little while ago elected me as leader of the Liberal Party and re-elected Julie as the deputy leader of the Liberal Party. I want to say at the outset what a great debt the nation owes, and the party owes, the government owes, to Tony Abbott, and of course to his family, Margie and their daughters. That the burden of leadership is a very heavy one. Tony's discharged that, leader of the party and of course as Prime Minister, over many years now. And the achievements of the government that he has led have been formidable. The free trade agreements that have been negotiated represent some of the key foundations of our future prosperity, which I'll talk about in a moment. And of course, restoring the security on our borders has been an extraordinarily important step, enabling us, for example, to offer the increased and generous arrangements for Syrian refugees last week. So I want to thank Tony very much indeed for that. Can I just say briefly, as I said, the hour is late, and I want Julie to be able to say something to you as well. This has been a very important, sobering experience today. I'm very humbled by it. I'm very humbled by the great honour and responsibility that has been given to me today. We need to have, in this country, and we will have now, an economic vision, a leadership that explains the great challenges and opportunities that we face, describes the way in which we can handle those challenges, seize those opportunities, and does so in a manner that the Australian people understand, so that we are seeking to persuade rather than seeking to lecture. This will be a thoroughly Liberal government. It will be a thoroughly Liberal government committed to freedom, the individual and the market. It'll be focused on ensuring that in the years ahead, as the world becomes more and more competitive and greater opportunities arise, we are able to take advantage of that. The Australia of the future has to be a nation that is agile, that is innovative, that is creative. We cannot be defensive, we cannot future-proof ourselves. We have to recognise that the disruption that we see driven by technology, the volatility and change, is our friend. Is our friend if we are agile and smart enough to take advantage of it. There has never been a more exciting time to be alive than today. And there has never been a more exciting time to be an Australian. We will ensure that all Australians understand that their government recognises the opportunities of the future and is putting in place the policies and the plans to enable them to take advantage of it. Now, Julie.
Thank you, and I realise the hour is late. First, I want to congratulate my very dear friend of many years, Malcolm Turnbull, on being voted in as the leader of the Liberal Party. That means he will become the Prime Minister of this country, and I'm confident that he has the passion, the energy and the vision to lead this country at this very challenging time. I thank Tony Abbott for his service as the leader of our party, and particularly for the effort that he put in at the 2013 election, when the Australian people knew they could not afford another moment under the Rudd-Gillard-Rudd government. It's a great honour to be elected as the deputy of this party again. I have served as the deputy for 8 years, and I have also, for the last 2 years, had the honour of being Australia's Foreign Minister. I'm excited about continuing to serve as the deputy under Malcolm Turnbull's leadership, and I am thrilled at the prospect of continuing to serve the Australian people as the Foreign Minister. I came into the Liberal Party and came into Parliament because I believed in the values of the Liberal Party, because I believe that they provide the most hope for the most people in this country. And as a believer in the Liberal Party that was created by Robert Menzies, I am firmly of the view that the values and beliefs of the Liberal Party are as relevant today as they were when this great party was formed 70 years ago. In Malcolm Turnbull, we have a leader who will be true to those Menzian values and beliefs, and I'll be honoured to serve this party and this country in my current role.
Mr. Turnbull. Yeah, we'll just take a couple of questions because it's so late. Mr. Curry.
Mr. Turnbull, well, I know it's early days, but is it your intention to serve the full term, or do you think there'll be a need to go to an early election to receive your own mandate as Prime Minister from the people?
My assumption is that the Parliament will serve its full term. Sorry.
Who will your Treasurer be, and do you envisage changes to policy substance as well as leadership style?
There will be, inevitably, there will be changes in ministerial arrangements. I'll be meeting with the Ministry tomorrow morning. I expect ministers will continue in their current position, unless, of course, they choose not to, for the balance of the week, and we'll make ministerial changes after the parliamentary sitting week is over. Now, hang on. Just let me finish. As far as policy changes are concerned, let me just say this. It's not a question of leadership style. There are few things more important in any organisation than its culture. The culture of our leadership is going to be one that is thoroughly consultative, a thoroughly traditional cabinet government that ensures that we make decisions in a collaborative manner. The Prime Minister of Australia is not a president. The Prime Minister is the first among equals, and you can see the partnership between me and Julie, the partnership with our colleagues, will be a very clear cultural demonstration that we are operating in a traditional cabinet manner. And that means, Lenore, that I'm not going to make policy pronouncements from this podium tonight. Of course, policies change; they change all the time. But they will be when people should have the confidence that we will be making decisions in a thoughtful and considered manner recognising the significance of the work we have to do as the Government of Australia.
The new Liberal Party leader and our next Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, talking live there from Canberra. He said it was a sobering experience. He was humbled by the honour. And Mark Riley, I'll bring you in here. He also said it was never a more exciting time to be an Australian. Well, pretty exciting times down in Canberra this evening.
Yeah, it's certainly exciting times for Malcolm Turnbull, Mark. I think we saw there very quickly the change in the presentation of the government at the leadership level. No slogans from Malcolm Turnbull. He articulated fairly clearly a vision of hope and optimism. I'm sure he'll paint in the detail of that in coming days. He said he would be collaborative and that he would be seeking the counsel broadly of the party and of the Australian people and ensuring that they were brought into the process of government. Mind you, I've heard that from the last 6 successive Prime Ministers, and very few, if any of them, have been able to do that, to deliver that. We'll see if Malcolm Turnbull can. But he also had those generous words for Tony Abbott, the 28th Prime Minister defeated tonight. He said that the ministry can serve on if they wish to do that in coming days, and then he will, when Parliament rises on Friday for the 3-week break, he will decide what happens to his front bench from then. I think the key message there, though, Mark, was on the economic vision that Malcolm Turnbull saw. He said that the leadership challenge that he sees is not only to explain the pressures, the challenges emerging that are pressing on Australia right now, but also to describe clearly and articulately how to meet them, and that he would lead a thoroughly liberal government based on the ethos of freedom and individualism and the market. Well, not a bad start. We'll see how that works in practice. Big news tonight, the 29th Prime Minister of Australia elected. He'll be sworn in, I guess, tomorrow. Mark?
Not a bad start. He did stumble when asked about changes to Cabinet, changes to ministerial positions. It would seem more than likely that Joe Hockey will step aside for Scott Morrison, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's unlikely that Joe Hockey will survive. I think when Malcolm Turnbull says that he needs a new economic vision, that is one without Joe Hockey as its chief spokesman. I think that's undeniable. We also saw Mr Hockey tonight attacking Malcolm Turnbull, and I think that there's personal as well as policy differences between those two gentlemen tonight. So I would imagine that Scott Morrison would be the leading candidate for that role. He has other, though, effective economic spokespeople in the Cabinet. Be interesting to see what happens to Matthias Cormann, who has been one of the better performing ministers. People like Andrew Robb, Josh Frydenberg definitely has been one of the better performers who stayed loyal to Tony Abbott. So he's got some big decisions to make, Malcolm Turnbull. Making swinging changes at times like this has benefits, but it also has detractions, because all those people who lose their Cabinet jobs are very upset about that. And uncomfortable people on the backbench is never good for a leader, Mark.
No, as we know, only too well. OK, Mark Riley, thank you. Big decisions ahead for Malcolm Turnbull. We don't know what the future now holds for Tony Abbott. He said earlier this evening that the party, the government and the country was better than this challenge. He'd won government with his uncompromising turn back the boats policy, but found being in office challenging and was then deserted by his colleagues one by one.
Tony Abbott, the man so often seen as on the move and on the rise. The Oxford boxer who graduated with a double degree in law and economics, a Rhodes Scholar and scholar, who trained as a priest. The journalist turned media advisor to Liberal leader John Hewson. Winning the seat of Warringah in 1994, in 1998 John Howard gave him his first ministerial job, Employment Services. In 2003 he became Minister for Health. After John Howard's defeat, he was seen as a key figure for the future. He led a campaign against then Liberal leader Malcolm Turnbull, beating him by 1 vote. As opposition leader, he led a ferocious attack against Labor in Parliament. In 2010 he led the coalition to the brink of victory, but instead continued to oppose the Labor Greens coalition led by Julia Gillard. That government's failings became his election slogans.
To stop the boats.
The government of Australia has changed.
But just a few months into government, polls began to turn after a travel entitlement saga and about faces on education. Successes claimed for stopping the boats, big spending on infrastructure, securing trade agreements, overshadowed by the failures of the 2014 budget, including the scrapping of the PM's signature paid parental leave scheme. Last summer, a Queensland election wipeout and a knighthood for Prince Philip brought the captain's calls into question.
I accept that I probably overdid it on awards.
Leadership rumblings became a roar, but the showdown never happened. Tony Abbott urging the party faithful to stay faithful to him.
I've listened, I've learned, and I've changed, and the government will change with me.
I would rather put cigarettes out on my eyes than go through that again.
But the late member for Canning, Don Randall, predicted tonight was inevitable.
I suspect that this is just the beginning of a process where we have to sort it out once and for all.
And tonight it was. The man who gained the Liberal leadership by 1 vote lost it by 10, as the nation now awaits Tony Abbott's next move. Paul Kadak, 7 News.
OK, time now for a quick look at tomorrow's weather around the country. A possible morning shower in Canberra, that should cool things down a little. Brisbane, mostly sunny, a top of 26. A warm one in Sydney, 29 degrees. Rain easing in Melbourne, a top of 15. Adelaide, partly cloudy, 17 degrees. And mostly sunny in Perth as well as Darwin. That is all for this special edition of 7 News, with yet another change at the very top. As we heard earlier tonight, when Malcolm Turnbull lost the referendum on the Republic a number of years ago, he said that John Howard, the then Prime Minister, had broken a nation's heart. Well, tonight I think it's fair to say Malcolm Turnbull has broken Tony Abbott's. We'll have all the reaction to tonight's developments on Sunrise in the morning and, of course, on 7 News throughout the day. I'm Mark Ferguson. Good night.
The following program is classified M and contains some violence. Channel 7 recommends